thanks everyone for joining us. Final week of the therapeutic applications of hip hop series, examining therapeutic applications of hip hop, beat making, rhyme writing, rapping, emceeing, and so on and so forth. And for many of the folks who have participated, examining hip hop therapy, etc., and what we can do to kind of mitigate the impacts of trauma and even heal the impacts of trauma itself, integrate in the body, the mind, soma, etc. I'm Dr. Elliot Gann, Executive Director of Today's Future Sound, a nonprofit based in Oakland, California, that uses the therapeutic power, educational power of hip-hop culture and beat making as a mental health, educational, and cross-cultural and cultural diplomacy intervention project, etc., here in Oakland, in California, across the country, and across the world. And I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist, a DJ, a beat maker, practitioner of hip-hop. And I have with me my esteemed colleagues from Rhythmic Mind, a hip-hop therapy nonprofit organization based here, also in Oakland, California, a hotbed of hip-hop therapy and therapeutic applications of hip-hop. I will let them introduce themselves and the exercise that we'll be doing today.
Yeah, very excited to be here doing this final workshop with you all and partnering with Elliot on this. Huge thanks to the Trauma Research Foundation for hosting this whole series. It's been amazing seeing what everybody's brought to the table. I'm Jonah Scott, licensed marriage and family therapist.
I'm Max Kline, and we are the co-founders and co-executive directors of Rhythmic Mind. And we offer culturally responsive avenues for teens and young adults to engage in their own empowerment through hip hop, as well as to help them to design and inform their own modes of intervention in order to heal and transform themselves, as well as their respective communities, and unfold their highest potential. So what we're going to be doing today is a really cool collaborative workshop with Elliot. Basically, he's going to lead a short beat making exercise, and then we're going to lead you guys through a visualization and a lyric writing exercise. And all of this is kind of around the idea of narrative and personal narrative. And then after that, we're going to stick around. Make sure you stick around. There'll be a short break, and then we're going to do a bonus freestyle therapy cipher workshop as well. For those of you who weren't able to make it to the first one, this will be your chance to check it out, and also if you want to participate as well. So definitely make sure you stay the whole time, because it's going to be really, really awesome. There'll be a lot of really cool experiences today. So before we hand it over to Elliot so that he can do more of the beat making, start leading through the beat making exercise, we just want to, for those of you who are not familiar out there in the audience, who are not mental health clinicians or don't have a clinical background, we want to define what a personal narrative is. So basically, a personal narrative is a story of who you are. And it's the way that you see that story, that narrative of who you are, and your relationship to that. So it's your relationship to yourself, your relationship to the world, how you perceive yourself, perceive the world, what you believe about yourself and believe about the world. And all of this has been constructed within the context that you have grown up in, you know, the environmental, socio-political, socioeconomic, you know, all the other factors that construct that narrative. And so that's the idea of what a personal narrative is. And it's shaped by all these different factors, and often it's unconscious, right? And it kind of runs us in this way of being this unconscious narrative that drives our behavior and our outlook on the world. So so yeah, that's really fundamental to understand that kind of basis for the exercise we're going to be doing today.
All right, gents. So yeah, thank you for kind of iterating that, and I think now, you know, we wanted to talk about the idea of the remix. The remix is a really central idea and concept and foundational point in hip hop, and the idea of sampling, right? The premise of hip hop and hip hop beats and music is derived from not so long ago, August 11th. It was the birthday of hip hop. August 11th, 1973, DJ Kool Herc debuted his merry-go-round technique, where with two turntables, he played the breaks or breakdown section of the record, where he isolated the drums or rhythmic sections, or breaks as they were known, from two records, and played them one after another It could be the same record and playing that break section with just the stripped down drums on rock, disco, other kind of records is like that, or two different records. And by playing it seamlessly and cutting from one to the other immediately, keeping the beat going, right? The merry-go-round technique, going back and forth, essentially created the idea of like a loop and beats as we know it. So he was effectively sampling, the earliest form of sampling, or we can say that sampling using digital samplers and computers to repeat the break section and other elements of the record is emulating DJ Kool Herc's merry-go-round technique, which led to the inception of hip-hop beats that later MCs or rappers would rap over. So hip-hop naturally borrows, appropriates, adapts, etc. Samples, takes samples from different records. And even we can think about this metaphorically by pulling things in, making cultural references to create records, right? To create the music and to create what we know as hip-hop music and culture and the elements of hip-hop. MCing, rapping, DJing, and beat making being another element. The breaking, as it's called, or break dancing as the mainstream media calls it, dancing to the breaks, the drums, isolated breaks, and graffiti, the visual element, and the fifth element of hip-hop, knowledge of self and knowledge of culture. So this idea of sampling is happens throughout on multiple levels throughout hip-hop culture. And the idea of remixing and recontextualizing and making new, synthesizing a new product, a new kind of final outcome, whether it be beats or anything else. And so really it's interesting to think about that, even from thinking about DJ Kool Herc's use of turntables, which were designed simply to play reproduced music, and turning them, hip-hop turned them, DJ Kool Herc and hip-hop DJs turned them into melodic and rhythmic instruments, whereby the pitch could be modulated by scratching the record or slowing the record, and the rhythms could be manipulated by scratching and beat juggling, etc., technical kind of things that were done in terms of DJ techniques. And so even turntables have been remixed, metaphorically speaking, in terms of being used not for their original intended purpose, but being reinvented. And so we also see older music samples, or it could be in contemporary music, being sampled, remixed in the same way that ideas are remixed in hip-hop. And so we can also think about how that can be used therapeutically, whereby folks, people, youth, adults can remix their narrative. And from my, and our model and kind of perspective at Today's Future Sound, particularly focusing on beat making, therapeutic beat making, we think about how can a new narrative be constructed both verbally but also non-verbally, right? And something that has a sense of structure, predictability, and containment, whereas trauma is unpredictable, throws you off your axis, dysregulates, whereas repetitive beats and rhythms regulate. And how can we construct nonverbal narratives through the process of beat making, or even through the process of DJing, which in itself, a good DJ creates a narrative with the songs, breaks, and rhythms that they choose, and takes you on a journey, a musical journey. And so too happens when we create and build beats that have a beginning, a middle, and an end, that are, even if they're loop-based and can help to regulate in that way, they do have a structure to them, both in terms of their rhythmic structure and also the song arrangement. And so that's something that I think a lot about, have really studied and looked at, that really does help to regulate folks who've been dysregulated and to deal with trauma, to give it a contained, structured, and manifested, expressed way. And we also think about the regulation through catharsis, through release, and putting it really, being able to articulate one's experience, even if non-verbally, kinesthetically, non-verbally, musically, artistically. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Rhythmic Mind to talk a little bit about their the way they re-author narratives.
Yeah, narrative therapy is definitely one of the cornerstone modalities that all of our programs are built from. There's huge parallels, I think, between narrative therapy and this idea of taking your personal narrative as it's been handed to you and reauthoring it or remixing it in a more hip-hop sense. And hip-hop itself really baked into the essence and the core of what hip-hop is. I mean, if you look at what Elliot was just talking about with Kool Herc, his brilliant idea to take these two sections of the record and extend them indefinitely, that was a reauthoring of a community collective narrative. He was given these records that were presented in one way, but he noticed that these dancers who did this very elaborate, dynamic style of dancing that is now what we know as Elliot said in the mainstream called breakdancing. They really responded to that one section of the record, and then they'd kind of stop and go back and like chill up against the wall. So he figured out, how can I extend that? So he created this new narrative where now the party is that element extended indefinitely. And those dancers have this indefinite space to now engage and interact in. And that opened up space for people to start getting on the microphone and talking over it. And that became rapping. So all of that simple idea of just extending these sections of the records, that was a reauthoring of a community narrative that then provided tremendous healing for people eventually all over the world. Even if you look at the way hip hop artists sort of rename themselves, and this is DJs, MCs, graffiti writers, dancers, you take on a name and you look at some of the names: Grandmaster Kaz, Blastmaster KRS-One, right? They're these very and if you think of the overall environments that this was born out of, and what that's telling you about your narrative, right? Like extreme oppression, poverty. What is that telling you? What about your place in the world, and where you are going to be able to go? That's not a very bright prospect. But then to be able to take that and say, no. I am actually a grand master. I am a super MC supernatural. I am any given name. But there's tremendous empowerment that is inherent in hip hop culture and expression. Within the context of this narrative. It has always been there since the very beginning. Hip hop itself is a vehicle for reauthoring or remixing one's personal narrative in a therapeutic fashion. So that's really what we're leaning into with the work we do.
And you can see that in every element, as Jonah was saying. Another aspect is like graffiti, the idea of taking on a whole nother name, a whole nother identity. It's kind of almost like a superhero identity. And then being able to reclaim your narrative, right? Being able to beautify the environment that you're living in with the art that you want to see, instead of all the corporate billboards and advertisements and, people telling you what you should want or who you should be. And also kind of coming into your neighborhood and saying, this is our property. And, being able to kind of reclaim your space and your narrative and your story and empower yourself to be able to create what you want, and then have a name that you feel is more aligned with the story and the narrative that you want to create for yourself in the world. So all of that is, as Jonah said, has always been fundamentally at the bedrock of hip hop, is this idea of taking ownership of that story and then creating it, the reality and out of it that you want to.
Yeah. And so for us, we do some beat making as well. But a lot of where we really lean into this narrative dynamic is around lyric and songwriting. And so after Elliot guides us through this beat making component, we're going to get into a little lyric writing exercise, which is really grounded in this reauthoring of one's personal narrative.
First, we're going to lead you through a visualization to help you really clarify a little bit around that narrative before you move into the lyric writing aspect. So it'll all kind of come together and culminate with that. So Elliot, yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Back to you to lead the beat making exercise.
Cool. Yeah, so I've put in the chat that everyone should open your Google or Firefox browser. Do not use Safari because it won't work. And go to I'm sorry, that was the host and panelists. Let me try that one more time. So everyone should go to bandlab.com. I will make sure that goes out to the audience.
I'm going to do it. You keep going.
What's that? And make sure you sign up for an account. Go to bandlab.com, and I will share my screen so you can follow. But we'll need actually folks to sign up. I'm already signed up, so go ahead and start an account. And then I'm just gonna hop into the exercise. So bear with me for a second. When you sign up for an account, it'll be like a 3 or 4 step process. Go to bandlab.com, sign up with your email, a name, and you'll put in a password. It'll take you to the next step, and you will click through and go ahead and just indicate you're going to be an artist, because we're going to have you be an artist today. And then you can select a couple of genres of music that you like. It really doesn't matter. Just click through that, click through those steps, and you will end up at this feed. And this is a free online beat making platform. It's also a bit of a social media network where you can post your music and students can post their music. And once you get through to this part, you'll go to the upper right-hand corner and you'll hit create. Now this is, again, it's a free platform. It's a free virtual studio. We use this with our students in elementary, middle, and high schools. We've used it at times in the juvenile hall where we're doing our joint program with Rhythmic Mind. And we've used it for virtual and remote workshops with students across the world. And we find that it's a very powerful platform that has a lot of kind of immediate impact. So you're going to hit, once you get to this screen, you'll go ahead and hit create. And once you hit that, it'll pop up this window. And what we want to do, because hip hop started with the drums or the breaks, is we're going to, in order to make our beat, we're going to make a basic beat today that we'll later have, Max and Jonah will walk us through, you know, a reauthoring of narrative verbally, but we're going to reauthor our narrative non-verbally through beat making. So you're going to click on drum machine. You'll see there's an option for instruments. There's even an option for voice/mic. So you can record in using your voice or mic. You can even plug in a guitar if you have an audio interface, which I assume most people don't have. But it creates virtual amps that it filters. And now they've just added a new feature, and this is a result of hip hop, that you can now have a sampler. And this is a feature that just happened a couple weeks ago. So again, you just for the folks in the chat, I'll go back, I'll exit this. You will, once you finish signing up, you'll see your stream page here, right? And it'll have library. I've seen my library. You can also go to feed. You may see this, like a feed of news and such things, or things that people have posted. You're gonna click on create in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to the mix lab where we're gonna actually make the beats. So again, don't worry if you're if you're still signing up. Don't worry about it. Just click through the steps. You'll get to this. Will be after the fourth step. You'll be able to go ahead and click on the create button in the upper right hand corner. Once you do that, it will take you to this screen in the mix studio, and at which point we'll then click on drum machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially program the drums of the break instead of sampling a drum loop, which we can do as well. But we're going to program the drums and then add on samples, kind of sampling, taking samples or pieces of pre-existing loops that are made. In this case, we're not sampling from records, although we could do with the sampler. All right, so I'm going to click on drum machine. And once you get in here, then go ahead and hit the delete button on your keyboard, because currently we have pre-programmed drums. In the arrangement view, you can see here the red blocks. It has an A pattern and a B pattern. And currently we're in the A pattern on this drum sequencer, which it's representing it here. We're going to want to delete that because we're going to want to put our own drums in there. So you'll hit the delete button or the backspace button on your keyboard. It will delete the drums. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the C pattern on the drum sequencer here, which will give us a blank pattern. So we're going to build a break from scratch. And this is a skill that we give to students. It's a structural kind of thing, right? And you're going to click on the kick drum here, right, which you'll hear when you click on it. And then you will click on the snare drum here. Now, if you're having trouble catching up, don't worry too much about it. You can just follow along here and just watch with this, and I'll walk you through. We can build a beat collaboratively. You will select the drum machine when you first come into the lab. Again, I'll go back one more time just for folks to see this, to reiterate. Coming from your stream here, you click on create. Then you click on drum machine. And then once you arrive here with the pre-programmed drums and patterns here, this is selected, you'll hit the delete or backspace button. It will delete that, and then you're going to go to a new blank pattern, which will be pattern C. So we click here, we have a blank pattern. Again, if you're not able to do this yourself on your own computer, don't worry about it. You can always go back and experiment, but we can do this collaboratively. And we will start with the most fundamental part is having a kick drum on the 1. Now we know that this is the 1 or first beat, right? And then the dark indicates the second beat, the light indicates the third beat, and the dark here, darker gray, indicates the fourth beat. The kick drum almost always in all pop music and hip hop hits on the 1 and the 3. So in terms of a count, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, and the snare drum will hit on the 2 and the 4. And if you hit this little play button, it plays the pattern. Okay, so now we have the option to add some hi-hats on top. And most hip-hop beats will have some hi-hats in it. Right? And so you can see it adds a bit of syncopation. It also kind of creates a bit of a, it's not a metronome exactly, but it gives a little bit of syncopation with the hi-hats hitting in between the kick and the snare, and also hitting at the same time concurrently. Now we're at 120 BPM, which is kind of a much faster tempo. There would be some modern hip hop that's at about 120 BPM, but that would be double time. So we're going to want to bring this down for a more easily rappable beat. We'll click on our BPM and drag down. You can also just double click in here and enter the number. We could put in 90, right, which would be a slower beat, be a little easier to rap to. And if we go ahead and take a listen, so you can see it's slower now, it's easier to rap to. And to add a little more flavor to it, a little more syncopation, we might add another kick drum on here. You can even try adding what's called a ghost note, which is the kick drum that's on the 16th note here, right? And it gives a little bit more syncopation, etc. So now we have programmed our drums. We have a kick drum. We started out with the kick on the 1 and the 3. We put a snare drum on the 2 and the 4. We added eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And what's really nice about this, once we add another kick drum, like I said, it gives a little more flavor, a little more kind of syncopation. And what's nice about this is you can teach this to students, you can teach this to clients. It's a very immediate thing that creates a gestalt or whole that people will recognize as a drum beat, right, as a drum break, but from component parts. So someone's literally learning how to program, how to construct it, etc. And they're now getting a final product, even if it's just a drum beat, right, that can be really satisfying, that you've been able to construct something that you've heard for years. And now, having learned it, you can also deconstruct it, understanding the component parts. Ah, that's how they do it. And I've seen that happen thousands of times. And I've seen how it can really be really exciting and also kind of very affirming and kind of increase self-esteem in terms of the mastery of even, a smaller task, right? And that's really important to have these quick wins and important victories for folks to be able to construct something and then have a kind of a different understanding of beat making, music, how music is made, and then having that as a skill set and a way of interfacing in the world. So now, once we programmed our beat, you can even just have a kick on the 1 and the 3 and a snare on the 2 and the 4 like this. We can add another instrument. We also have the option, instead of going to add another instrument, of adding samples. And so we can go here to where it says Bandlab Sounds. And this menu pops up when I click this little tab on the bottom right-hand corner. And what we'll do is we'll pick some sounds, maybe from like the lo-fi hip-hop collection. You can choose whichever one you want. I would suggest maybe Midnight Lo-Fi, Bedroom Beats, something like that, Lo-Fi Dreams, where we're looking for like both a melodic and harmonic loop. And we can hit, we don't want a texture, we want something melodic, like lo-fi keys. So it tells you, lo-fi keys 10, it's a keyboard sound, it's 85 beats per minute, so it's not too far from what we have, and it's in E minor. Now this is going to work because it time stretches, or it'll snap to fit our drums, and it fits it to the BPM. Even though it's 90 and this is 85, it's an internal loop. It's part of their system, so it'll naturally fit. We'll click, we'll drag this over so it starts on the 1, and now we can hit play. So it's a nice kind of lush piano loop, kind of calming, kind of soothing, down-regulating. So what we'll want to do is once we have it locked into against the 1, right up here against here, we'll click on the upper right-hand corner where this little arrow is with a circle, which indicates looping. So in the same way that DJ Kool Herc may have rewound the record to replay a melodic or harmonic part along with the breaks, the digital sampler allows the looping or continuous playing, seamlessly playing and repeating of different elements. And so we can do the same thing here, and we'll just bring that up. Let's bring that out until maybe, I'm going to close this tab for a second and bring this out to up to the 17th bar. So we have 16 bars of this. I can bring back the sample kind of menu and loops here. And you can also preview, you can listen to it by hitting the play button. If you don't like that one, you can pick another one. What we're going to do next is we're going to hit this tab again to make this disappear, and we're going to bring our drums in. Now to get back to the drums, the drum machine, we click here on this little icon. It brings up the drum programming, the drum sequencer. Now it took me back to pattern A, which is not the pattern that I programmed. We're going to go to pattern C, where we programmed our drums, and click on the little turquoise button here that says Add C. Now we want it to come in. I'm going to choose to bring in the drums at bar 5 because I want there to be an introduction. I want this to be a narrative, right? I want it to be introduced with a kind of a calm, soothing, melodic, harmonic loop that we have with this piano loop, and then after 2 repeats of that, 1 and 2, it'll come in on bar 5. So I move what's called the tape head, the white tape head here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Add C. Again, I'm going to be looping by clicking in the upper right-hand corner of this loop, of this block, and dragging it out. And I'll drag it up to maybe, let's see, bar 13. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it so we can actually tangibly hear and both hear and see what we have. So we got a kind of a nice little kind of situation going on here. Now the other thing that I want you to do is, if you are doing this yourself and following, click on this little magnet here that says Snap to Grid. What that's going to do is it's going to snap now to the grid, to the bars. And we want to do that for these. And you can see now it's a little better lined up than it was before. And we got now the piano, the drums come in. I'm actually going to go to my drum machine here and change it to like a little bit more of an organic sounding drum kit. I'm going to click, I've clicked on here to get to this instrument. I'm going to click on here where it says 808 kit, and I'm going to go to my drum kits menu here and go to Lo-Fi Hop Kit. You can select any one you want, experiment, see what you like the most, but let's compare that now. So it's really nice. It kind of fits the aesthetic, right, of the kind of lo-fi piano sound. What we're going to do next is we're going to add a little more harmonic elements on there. So we're going to stay in the same pack that we're in, Midnight Lo-Fi, and whatever pack you're in, there'll be corresponding piano loops, keyboard loops, and there also will be bass loops. So I'm going to go down and scroll down until I get to bass. If they have a bass guitar, hopefully they do. Let's see. Here we go. I've scrolled down to the bottom, and they have bass. So I have lo-fi keys 10. I'm going to go with lo-fi bass 10, and I'm going to drag it in here. it onto the space that's kind of dotted underneath, and it will create a new track. It snaps into place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it here on bar 9 because it's all about multiples of 2 and 4 in terms of pattern and arrangement of the track. And then I'm going to loop this as well. I'm going to let this play. And you can hit the minus magnifying glass icon, which will zoom out and let us zoom out further. We have bars 1 through 17 here. So I'm going to extend my drums out like this. And then maybe extend the bass as well. And then let's have it go to maybe bar 25. So it'll be 24 bars in length total. We'll have the piano go to the very end as well. And maybe we'll have the piano just go out for another repeat here. Maybe we'll do 2 repeats to parallel the beginning. And the drums, I'll just have come up to bar 21. And now we have, a simple, but, a decently arranged beat. So we've created what would be called like a boom bap or even a lo-fi hip hop beat. The characteristics are kind of this vintage, nostalgic feel, low fidelity in sound. And often what you'll find is that a lot of people are using lo-fi hip hop playlists. They often call them study beats or chill hop or something like that. But there's literally millions of people simultaneously streaming on YouTube, streaming beats like this because they use it for studying, they use it to relax when they're feeling dysregulated, and also it's become kind of a phenomenon in terms of people congregating in the comments section and hanging out, right? And so that's something that a lot of us will find with our young people and even older folks. They have it on in the background. They're using it as a regulatory mechanism for themselves to study, to focus, to downregulate their stress response because it's slow, soothing, repetitive beats that's kind of isn't very distracting, is nice in the background and kind of fits that, a certain kind of aesthetic of even like, kind of being maybe a little sad, maybe being nostalgic, reflective, etc. So that's something to think about when we're engaging our clients and our patients as a coping mechanism they may already be using, and now empowering them or helping them rather to empower themselves to create their own music, which I think increases a sense of self-esteem, of efficacy, having an effect on the world, and also regulate with the repetitive rhythms which are regulating the nervous system, kind of this repetitive beats. All right, so we are going to now that we have our beat, we're going to jump to Rhythmic Mind to lead us through an exercise. Don't worry if you weren't able to construct it entirely yourself. You can go back and watch previous episodes that we had for episodes number 2 of this series. We did an in-depth beat making exercise. You can go back and look at that if you're wondering, kind of have a slower, more step-by-step approach to making beats. All right, I will stop sharing my screen and pass it to Max and Jonah.
Awesome, that was dope, man. Are we unmuted? Yeah. That was a really dope beat. Yeah, we might have to bring that back. But yeah, so now we're going to take that nonverbal narrative of that beat and we're going to fuse it with the lyric writing and verbal part. But before we do that, we're going to lead you guys through a really cool visualization that you're going to kind of pull from as you move into the lyric writing exercise. So The first thing that we're going to do is just drop in. So everybody at home, if you're comfortable, and we hope you are, because for the visualization, it does kind of require you to close your eyes. So hopefully you're comfortable doing that. So just, you know, make yourself comfortable, make sure you're sitting in a comfortable position, and, you know, close your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, and just take a few deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Deep breath in the nose, out through the mouth. A couple more. Deep breath in, out through the mouth. Really feel your feet on the floor. Feel your body contacting whatever it's contacting. Notice where your hands are. Feel the sensations of whatever they're resting on. And now I want you to imagine yourself standing at the edge of a lake. You're right in front of a lake. And you see a little pebble next to you. And I want you to pick up that pebble and imagine yourself just dropping it into the lake. And as you do, I want you to allow yourself to become more and more relaxed as you watch the ripples go out more and more, and you see this ripple in the water just expanding and exponentially growing out through the water. And you see how far these ripples reach, and you just allow yourself to become more and more relaxed with each ripple. And allow yourself to go deeper and deeper into this relaxation. Continuing to breathe deeply, relaxing more and more, dropping deeper and deeper. Now, I want you to imagine yourself a few years in the future. And this is a fully self-actualized version of yourself. So I want you to imagine whatever that looks like to you, however you would define that, yourself a few years in the future from now, fully self-actualized. And I want you to imagine this version of yourself, this future fully self-actualized you, and really take it in. Really pay attention to all the details. How are you? Where are you? Where do you see yourself? What's around you? What environment are you in? How are you standing? How are you moving? What's your body language like? What are you wearing? Just take in all the details and really pay close attention to what this fully self-actualized version of yourself looks like. Notice everything, all the nuances, how this version of yourself is embodied. Now I want you to ask this version of yourself for some advice. What advice do they have to give to you about how to become this version of yourself? What wisdom do they have to share with you? could be related to the first steps you need to take towards moving into becoming this version of yourself. It could be anything that they have to share with you that will help you to move towards becoming that version of yourself. Now I want you to imagine, just take a couple more seconds and really listen to that wisdom. Take that in. Now I want you to imagine this future self-actualized version of yourself looking back to this moment, to this version, to the present version of yourself. And I want you to be able to imagine the path between you and this version of yourself in the future. And I want you to imagine yourself walking down this path from the present version of yourself now, and you continue to move down this path towards this future version of yourself, this fully self-actualized version of yourself. And I want you to imagine moving through whatever journey and process you need to become this version of yourself as you walk down this path and you get closer and closer and closer. And now you find yourself just a few steps away, just a few feet away from this version of yourself, standing right in front of them. I want you to really, again, take that in, all of the details. Now I want you to imagine yourself taking a few steps forward and stepping into this version of yourself, stepping into this fully actualized future self. Notice what that feels like. How does it feel to be embodying this future fully self-actualized self? Let that really sink in. Let it permeate all of your being, your body, your mind, your spirit. Let it really sink in. Once you've had a chance to really allow that to integrate and sink in, I want you to begin to gently come back to the room, slowly open your eyes and return, embodying this future self-actualized version of yourself, bringing that back into the present moment as you come back to this present space. Apologies if that felt a little bit rushed. We're feeling slightly pressed for time, so usually I would tend a little slower with the prompts. I see that feedback in the chat. I appreciate that feedback. Sorry you guys didn't feel you had more space between the prompts.
Yeah, we are just trying to be mindful of time and a bit pressed. So yeah, this is, we do these kind of visualizations with youth in our programs. Definitely a lot of steps that work up to that as well. A lot of exploration from all kinds of different angles on understanding personal narrative, identifying their personal narratives, how to work with them, how to reauthor them, and then kind of culminating in these visualizations, which really help them crystallize the narratives that they want to live. And those can be focused around success, self-actualization, resilience building, a number of different things depending on the group of kids. But that is a little taste of some of the work we do with youth around this reauthoring of narrative. And to take that a step further, we're now going to get into just a very short writing exercise. This is a super encapsulated version of what we would do with kids. But based on that experience that you just had, we're going to take about 6 minutes. So not a ton of time, but we want to invite everyone on the panel, everyone in the audience to put pen to paper or on the keyboard, whatever you have to write with. And Elliot, if you would be so kind as to put that beat back on, and we're going to write to that beat.
Yeah.
So we're getting that rhythmic regulation. We're really saturating in that rhythm. We're using that as a way of just kind of opening ourselves up. And then I want to invite you to whatever you feel compelled to write around that experience, that future self-actualized self, any of that. You have freedom within that structure to express however you want to. If you want to make it rhyme and you want to write a rap, that's amazing. That's amazing. That is kind of, the core of what we're doing. But if that's new to you, if that feels like too much to try to, you wouldn't be able to fully express yourself, don't even trip. Just, write whatever comes. But we are going to do it over this beat. And then we're going to invite a handful of you. Hopefully there's at least, 3 or 4 who are willing to step up and read what you wrote back over the beat. And that'll kind of be the culmination of this workshop today. So yeah, if there's any, questions, you can pop those in the chat. But otherwise, I'd say, Elliot, let's just play that beat for about, let's say 6 minutes, let you all write, and then we'll come back and we'll hopefully get some sharing and hear some of these self-actualized narratives. right, I'd say let's start to wrap that up. Finish your thoughts. Elliot, if you want to maybe just drop the volume a little bit on there, we can keep it going. But, just drop it so we can clearly hear over it. Yeah, let's see. Hopefully, at least a few of y'all will be down to share what you wrote over this beautiful beat Elliot's put together.
Yeah, hopefully that was a really good experience for everyone, and you were able to get a little taste of what that's like to write over, get the rhythmic regulation while you're writing, coming out of that, that super deep visualization and kind of crystallizing that idea of reauthoring the narrative and coming to root with yourself in the beat.
All right, I see rap. Want to get in there?
Oh,
in the
word.
chat, rather.
Word. Rap, would you mind if we read that out loud? Peace, man.
All good.
Thanks for joining, man. Glad you could be here and participate. Yeah, sure.
That?
So he said, looking forward, looking back, a smile on my face, that feeling of love all over the place. Son, daughter, and my wife by my side, accomplishing goals. It all fills me with pride. Not about the accolades, but things I got to do to make the world better. The kids deserve it too. Also got to work on my health, just as important as building that wealth. Finishing my rhyme, although not done. Gotta beat my son in hoops and one-on-one. Fire. That's really dope, man. That's really dope.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see. And if some of you guys would be down, I think we can. I think Pat can make you panelists, and then you can join either with mic and camera or just mic.
Yeah. When would you be down to actually get on the mic and say it out loud over the beat?
Yeah, that would be awesome if you're down. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. So Pat, I'm not sure if you can just activate her mic or if you have to promote her to panelists, but if you could do one or the other, that would be
amazing.
Great.
There she is. Cool. And then get the beat going.
And no worries about it being perfectly on beat.
No, nothing like that.
They tell me to write something today, but I never know what to say. So I just start rambling and letting the words play, hearing if something will fit in some way. They said something about a personal narrative, but that just seems so personal to me. I'm not really sure that I'm ready to tell it to thee. Maybe bits and pieces of it for now, until it's ready to be heard out loud.
That was excellent.
That was amazing.
That was dope.
Thank you, Ed.
That was amazing. Yeah.
I like that.
Thanks so much for sharing.
I couldn't really hear the beat, so I just kind of rambled.
It worked. It had its own internal rhythm for sure. Its own internal rhythm. That was great. The reason we encourage sharing, and this is not to try to supersede anybody's boundaries, but just to share and pull back the hood a little bit. The reason we encourage sharing is, well, first and foremost, hip hop is really a community-based culture and activity. And then from the clinical side, with narrative, the kind of final stages, that crystallization of the reauthored narrative, being the sharing it with community, friends, family, having it witnessed. Having it witnessed that's really a really important piece. That's what we do with youth as well. We try to have them perform, at the very least record and then play that music for their community, but also perform, because of having that, it solidifies the reauthoring of the narrative when it's witnessed by community. But yeah, I think that's probably good for this section. Elliot, do you have a? She said, I've been listening to Roxanne Shante. My standards are very high right now. I heard that. Roxanne. Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, unless Elliot, I don't know if you wrote anything. If you want to share.
I didn't have a chance to write.
All good. Yeah, we didn't do anything for this one either. Well, yeah. I guess just to wrap up this section, Elliot, do you have any kind of last thoughts, comments?
I mean, I would just say, if you notice how the beat makes you feel, right? Somatically in your body.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
for me, I find it very soothing. I find it very kind of minimalistic and soothing, very regulating. It's a lower, it is still, it's a little bit faster. 90 BPM is not our, resting heart rate when we're calm and sitting. It's a little bit more activated, right? It's a little higher BPM, a little higher energy, but it's not 120, which is what kind of a fully activated, like if you look here, we're at 90 beats per minute, right? If we were up at 120, you would notice quite a difference, right, in terms of like how activated your nervous system might be, right? You might be a little more activated, a little more energy. If we listen to it like this, it's more dance, right? It's up. It's like you're working out, you're running, you're dancing. It's higher energy, versus if we take it down to say like 60 BPM, 70 BPM, where a lot of lo-fi chill kind of background music is, like down here. Let's take a listen to that. If we adjust it, you'll notice it's a lot more chill, right? And kind of maybe more contemplative, more rhythmically soothing. And I think that's something that we can just think about using for our clients, our patients, for ourselves, using music as a resource, which is something that Dr. Travis really studies and looks at, and that we look at too in terms of modulating rhythm, modulating tempo, modulating your level of activation in your nervous system. And then to a whole nother extent, when you are creating the music, when one is creating the music, they have a certain sense of control and mastery. And when we think about trauma, the lack of perceived control and the lack of actual control over one's nervous system, it's really profound to be able to have a sense of autonomy, control, mastery, even over the little things. I think that has incredible potential and meaning, and can really, I think, help to modulate one's level of activation of like the stress response, and processing stress, processing traumatic, difficult things in a nonverbal way, since trauma is pre-verbal. Before it, we have abstract representation of what happened to us, and we integrate and create this cohesive narrative, this remix, if you will, that's kind of more along the lines of Judith Herman and traditional kind of talk trauma therapy. I think that there's ways to process it and regulate ourselves. So looking at lowering the BPM, maybe looking at this as a resource, helping ourselves and our clients, our patients, other people around us to regulate themselves, to recognize the ways that we can activate and deactivate our stress response and help us to cope with very stressful situations, which frankly, I feel like we're in the midst of right now with the fourth wave or whatever it is of COVID. And I've noticed anecdotally and personally, there's a lot more stress, a lot more stressful things going on for people in the past 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of people have been very activated. And so this is a way I know that I personally, and that a lot of people in my community use to cope with it. We have this global beat cipher every Saturday. We're in our 77th week. And it's a way that, at least for a couple hours on a Saturday night, we can tune out, regulate ourselves with beats, express how we feel in this nonverbal narrative kind of form, and really kind of have this contained, predictable group structure and set of rhythms. So I just want to encourage people to kind of reflect on that.
100%, man. And that's a really great segue to the next thing we're doing. And I just wanted to say that I feel like the 90 BPM is a really good kind of middle ground between being something that's regulating to your central nervous system, but also giving you a little energy. Kind of this idea of, like, as Rakim would say, he's relaxed with pep. Rakim is like one of the kind of godfathers of hip hop. And he has a actual song, right? Yeah. Called Relaxed with Pep, which is the idea of being relaxed and regulated, but also being energized at the same time, having like a lot of life and a lot of energy while you're also fully relaxed and regulated and laid back. So that's kind of, I think, a good example of that is like the 90 BPM, because it's not activating, but it's also not like just completely, overly regulating where there's no energy left. So, and so that also plays into the next workshop we're about to get into, which is the freestyle therapy cipher workshop. and the idea of how you build stress tolerance by activating it a little bit, but also having the rhythmic regulation be the thing that regulates it. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that. So yeah, definitely.
Great segue. One last thing I also just wanted to encapsulate as far as offering tools. We did this in, again, a very condensed version. Time definitely a factor, but just especially those who are working with like adolescents and teens and folks who are really already engaged with hip hop culture, really starting to look at and understand hip hop, the culture and all the forms of expression within it as incredibly powerful vehicles for reauthoring of narrative. And where that might be a little foreign, it might be a little alien, just coming from strictly a clinical lens. Because hip hop always has been this incredibly powerful vehicle for transformation and reauthoring of narrative. So just as a soundbite to kind of offer that as a very powerful tool in working with clients, again, in particular teens and adolescents who are probably already somewhat engaged and into this culture and these forms of expression.
And some of this is taken from, because we're currently doing a program with Today's Future Sound in partnership at the Alameda County Juvenile Hall. And this is something a little bit similar to what we just did today. It's not the same, but there's elements that we do where we have these deep discussion groups around challenge and then resilience, and they're simultaneously making beats with Elliot and Today's Future Sound and really learning how to use that nonverbal narrative, and then mastering that ability to regulate themselves with the beat making. And then we bring it together and have them focus on writing collaborative hip hop songs that are focused on the reauthoring of their personal narratives. So it kind of comes together, and we have these visualizations as part of that as well. So that's a program that we're currently doing at Alameda County Juvenile Hall. And we just got another cycle of the grant. We just were awarded the grant. I don't know if Elliot, if you want to say anything about that.
Yeah, no, I just want to extend our thanks and recognition to California Arts Council as well as to Rhythmic Mind for a second year co-authoring the grant, which is enabling us to continue our program, typically a 20 to 27 week program that allows us to be in the juvenile hall twice a week. And yeah, it's really phenomenal, particularly a year in which COVID reduced the funding amount by a factor of 10 to 15, which is what, like, that's like 1,000 to 1,500% decrease in funding. Was much more competitive. We were worried that we might not get it funded because it's a really core integral program at Today's Future Sound of our offerings, but it was. We're incredibly grateful, and we are excited to continue our work at the Juvenile Hall for I think 6th going on 7th year with our instructors, with Rhythmic Mind, and and having just come out of doing a week of teaching during intersession at Juvenile Hall last week with Max alongside one of their staff instructors and alongside several of our Today's Future Sounds teaching artist staff instructors, I can say that it is a incredibly impactful thing to be able to bring hip hop, beat making, arts, music into the units. I had a chance to work with kids who are just phenomenally musically gifted and just need access to it and need a non-judgmental access point to music, to arts, especially something that's culturally relevant. Because most of the kids, not all of them, but most of them, do identify with hip hop culture. There's an immediate familiarity and access point that's really powerful, and it's a really beautiful way to kind of even talk about and move into talking about other forms of music or that they may like or they may not even know that they like, and to create and express. So I want to say how grateful we are for that. We're very excited to continue the program, our work at Alameda County Juvenile Hall and with Alameda County Office of Education. So yeah, shout out to them. And also shout out to Bessel van der Kolk for inviting us and having us to present at the conference. I guess it was 2 years ago now, or a year ago, and then having us on this program. So shout out to Trauma Research Foundation, California Arts Council, and Bessel van der Kolk and everyone else, Lucia Sky, etc.
So as we said, we're going to jump into a sort of bonus round of the Rhythmic Mind Freestyle Therapy Cypher model and workshop. What this is in a nutshell is we use freestyle rapping, which is spontaneous, improvisational, in the moment, off the top of the head rapping, as a therapeutic and resource building or resilience building tool. And essentially we're really tapping into the inherent therapeutic benefits in the act of freestyling. Both Max and I, lifelong hip hop heads, we've been doing this since we were, 9, 10 years old, and always noticed that you feel really good after you do it. And then from getting some clinical knowledge and understanding, we started to, oh, that kind of makes sense. That's maybe why it's having this effect. That's why I feel this way afterwards. So this workshop really just leans into and kind of amplifies those dynamics already inherent in freestyle rapping.
100%. So, and those the benefits and those therapeutic aspects of freestyling are numerous. There's many, many, many. Just some of them include rhythmic regulation, right? That's the fundamental bedrock of everything we do as Rhythmic Mind, but especially in this workshop, the idea of how rhythm and repetitive rhythmic patterns, engaging in that, basically regulates the brain and the impact of trauma on the brain and the central nervous system, and allows you to regain access to the limbic and the prefrontal cortex areas of the brain, to be able to kind of move out of that fight or flight response and into a more regulated and more optimal zone of functioning. So that's the rhythmic regulation piece. There's also mindfulness. We frame freestyling as mindfulness because it is a form of mindfulness, because you have to really be present in the moment. You can't be up in your head or thinking about yesterday or tomorrow. You've got to be tapped into the moment to be able to flow freely and, in improv in that way. So it's definitely a form of mindfulness. It's also a form of meditation. From Jonah and myself, we've definitely experienced it on very deep levels as a form of meditation. And I've always said it's almost like having a conversation with the divine, if you wanted to bring a spiritual aspect into play. So that's another piece in terms of the mindfulness. There's also just the idea of how it helps you to really just build a lot of self-confidence and self-esteem as you kind of move out of your comfort zone, and all the growth that happens on the other side of your comfort zone, and being able to realize like you're capable of doing something that you were afraid of or you thought you couldn't do, especially as you get a little better. And it doesn't, as you practice, you can get better pretty quickly. And then there's also it helps you to build resilience and build stress tolerance, actually expand stress tolerance by activating the stress response just enough so that it doesn't overwhelm the nervous system, but it does activate it enough so that it expands it. Because, you have to, as people like Bruce Perry talk about, you have to activate the stress response a little bit in order to expand that stress tolerance. But you're doing it in a way that's titrated, in a way that's not overwhelming to the central nervous system, and allows you to kind of, again, move a little bit out of your comfort zone just enough so that you can build that resilience and that tolerance to more and more stress. And then, also just fun. It's super fun, right? It's like, and that's another reason why it's really effective in working with youth, because it's very fun, very engaging, and just adds a lot of energy to everything.
For sure. When I see your comment here, recently I started trying freestyling as prayers. Awesome. I can say definitely for myself and Max, from just conversations we've had, I think that it's accurate that is so on point for our experience of freestyling.
100%.
I have treated it as a form of prayer for a very long time. Not necessarily in the workshops we do with youth. We want to show up and respect people's beliefs and not be overly heavy-handed with spirituality, but that is definitely a core part of our approach, our relationship with hip hop, and then our approach to the work as well. And freestyle ciphers, for me growing up, were always a very spiritual, ritualistic thing, involving burning of incense and lowered light, and really kind of getting into a trance state. And as Max mentioned, feeling like you're communicating with source, divinity, whatever you want to call that. But and then you can look at that from the clinical lens too, in rhythmic regulation, and how that's really helping you to access all of your faculties as a human being. We referenced this before, but there's been studies that show when you get into a flow state, the part of your brain that's responsible for the inner critic starts to go offline. So you're taking that voice, that resistance away while amplifying your capabilities. You can see how it can put you in this very, very heightened, altered state. So that's for us anyway, definitely a very spot on comment.
We like to say how basically it helps you to access your higher self, or you can just say your highest self, because it's your the highest potential, the optimal zone of functioning. And to me, it's also been a way that it's like you can access wisdom from places that you usually don't have access to. And there's like deep, deep power and wisdom that can come from from that. And it's like a well of wisdom and resilience that can come from that. And I've experienced that many times in my life. I've been in some dark places going through stuff. And then I just started freestyling, and you know, obviously the rhythmic regulation on the scientific level, but also just the ability to kind of rise above whatever I was going through really helped me do that by accessing these kind of almost like altered states and mystical states of consciousness.
There's a lot of practitioners of hip hop culture, whether they be B-boys and B-girls, graffiti writers, beat makers, MCs, that refer to hip hop, for lack of a better term, as a spiritual technology, as a means of expressing divinity through the human form and spirit. So yeah, there definitely is, I think, you know, relationships there.
Yeah. So
yeah, we're gonna jump into, we're gonna do 2 rounds today. So these are specific kind of custom designed Rhythmic Mind freestyle therapy cipher exercises. And these are things that are very similar to things you might do in normal talk therapy, but we just do them through this medium of freestyle rapping. So the first one we're gonna do today is the goals round. Super simple and straightforward. Yeah. We're just gonna rap about what our goals are. And yeah, on the surface, very, very simple and straightforward, but this can have tremendous, tremendous clinical impact. I'll really quickly give you just a little vignette, which can unpack some of this profound therapeutic impact that exercises like this can have. So this was at a continuation high school in West Oakland, where we were doing a program about 5 or 6 years ago. And we were doing one of these ciphers, and there was a young man in there. And at first he started rapping about the things that I would say just were familiar to him, from the music he listened to with his peers, things, selling drugs, stuff like that. That's kind of just, whether or not he did them, that's kind of just, oh, this is what I rap about, right? So he's going with what's familiar, what he knows, what's comfortable. And then we challenged him when we pushed him a little bit. We were like, yo, that was really dope, the way you rhymed this word with this word with this word, but maybe you could try to even rap about, like, what are some of your goals? And I know you talked about wanting to graduate. What if you tried to rap about that? And he did want to graduate, but he also had tremendous academic struggle. He was at continuation high school, so very behind on his credits, really not doing anything to try to actualize that goal of graduation, doing quite the opposite, actually. Tremendous amounts of trauma he had experienced, was experiencing continually in his life. And trauma can really impact the nervous system and make things like goals that are challenging become threats. And so they're overwhelming to the nervous system. And now trying to face that challenge can put you into fight or flight, which you could see he was not able to step up and meet that challenge because arguably it was overwhelming his nervous system when he thought about it. But now he's engaging with this goal in this kind of cushion of rhythmic regulation, because he's freestyling about it over a beat, and we're all collectively nodding our heads, and we're, you know, communally using this rhythm as a regulatory force. And then he's speaking about his goal through that dynamic. And so he's able to regulate himself. And now the challenge isn't as overwhelming to his nervous system. And he's changing his relationship to that goal because he's regulating his trauma through this rhythm. Additionally, he's getting tremendous peer validation, because when he does it in this way that's cool, his peers are now going, oh, damn, that was amazing, blah, 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 about graduation. So it's getting that reinforcement from that as well. And we're super happy to say this was towards the end of the school year. After that experience, and he even went on to in the rhyme start talking about seeing himself on stage, getting his diploma in his cap and gown, and see his imagination start to come online, which is another aspect of trauma, being able to really shut down the imagination, but then that regulating force allowing his imagination to start to flourish again. And so from all of that, he made a dramatic 180, started doing everything he needed to do. And we're extremely happy to say that he went on to graduate just a few months later. So you can really see where this doing something as simple as rapping about your goals can potentially have the impact of completely changing the relationship to that goal, and helping it not be so overwhelming, and helping it be something that really can become more manageable and achievable.
Which, if you think about it, is another kind of form of reauthoring your narrative too, right? Because you're changing your relationship to a goal you have and a story around that goal, what that means to you, and you're literally reauthoring that. So this is another way that you can, you know, kind of reauthor your narrative as well. And yeah, that was really an amazing thing to see, you know, and like our hypothesis is that him being able to freestyle about it, use the rhythmic regulation, allowed that to sink in on a much deeper level. So it's more authentic. Before he had the goal, but it was not only threatening to his nervous system, it was also completely out of reach. It wasn't something embodied. But when he imagined himself doing that, it became something like real, you know, and he's doing it through a medium, which is very familiar to him and very kind of like kind of near and dear to his heart, if you think about it that way.
Part of the fabric of his life.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Exactly. So, yeah. So a couple other things about goals, just in terms of quick psycho-ed pieces. It's definitely been shown in a lot of research that goals, so like if just the simple act of setting goals make one much more likely to be successful and feel satisfied with their lives, as well as feel more positive about themselves. And the whole idea of the imagination is huge, and really this exercise does really connect that piece for the youth to move into this process of being able to bring the imagination back online. So as Jonah kind of hinted at, or kind of said basically that, like, trauma shuts down the part of the brain, prefrontal cortex, right, that acts as the imagination. So you have no access to that. You can no longer visualize a reality or a future that's different from the one you're currently in. And as a result of that, you don't know where to even begin to take a step towards creating that reality, because you can't even imagine that it's possible. So this idea of the rhythmic regulation combined with setting a goal and then freestyling about that goal allows you to then be able to have that imagination part of your brain that acts as the imagination come back online. And then now you can actually visualize and imagine a different circumstance, a different reality for yourself. So that's another really powerful piece of this round, the goals round. Lastly, slightly more esoteric, but also very powerful, the idea of the phrase abracadabra, something that we talk about, which is actually ancient Aramaic. And the original etymology of that word, what it actually means is I create as I speak. So the idea of literally speaking reality into existence. Whatever you speak becomes, you manifest. So if you bring that into the idea of the goals round, rapping, freestyling about your goals, combined with the rhythmic regulation, everything else that we've talked about, you can see how powerful that is to be able to speak your goals into existence with that rhythmic regulation to make it even more real and kind of manifest that in the universe.
Yeah. So with that being said, we want to definitely invite, hopefully we can get at least a couple folks from the audience who would be willing to give this a shot. And as we always say, like, if trying to make all this rhyme just feels like too much, we want to encourage you to push yourself out of your comfort zone. As Max said, that's definitely part of where this benefit comes from. But we also understand that that's challenging.
Yeah.
And if you want to just name some of your goals, just speak your goals out loud over this rhythm that we're going to play a beat here in a minute and participate in that way, that's also amazing. So we're definitely hoping when you're already up here, I don't know if you're willing to jump in.
Yeah, if you're down to jump in,
offer some prayers.
That would be amazing. If anyone else wants to jump in, we promise you'll feel good.
When's eating? Got you.
Oh, got it. We promise it'll feel really good and you will not regret it. It'll be something that you're happy that you did. One of us will start to model the exercise, and then hopefully we can get like one or two people to at least just try. Johnny, oh, yeah, he's in. All right, so we do have awesome. our staff artist just walked into the building. Johnny Cleveland, he's an amazing beat maker and finger drummer, making beats live on the spot. He also freestyles, and he's currently we're training him currently to become a lead facilitator of these freestyle therapy cypher workshops, because he's done many of them with us, but now he's stepping into more leadership. So we're happy to have him here.
Glad you can make it, John.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can hopefully get just one other person. And again, we know that this might be a little bit scary, a little bit, make you a little bit nervous. That's all part of the fun.
Yeah.
You will feel amazing on the other side of it. We promise you. You just don't overthink it. Just start speaking goals over the beat we're going to play. So hopefully we can get one more.
And the reason we're asking now is because it's a cipher, 360 degrees. That's the idea. It's a circle. And once it starts, it just keeps going. So we're going to have the round, like either me or Jonah and myself will start, and then maybe we'll pass it to Johnny, pass it to someone else, and then it'll come, and then one of us will close it out. So it'll be kind of just moving fluidly like that. So yeah, so we'll give it like another 30 seconds or so if someone is willing to be a brave soul and give this a shot, move a little out of their comfort zone. That would be amazing. Promise it won't hurt. Again, you don't have to rap. You don't have to rhyme. You can just speak your goal over the rhythm. And if you are interested in potentially trying that out, you're on the fence, Pat can make you a panelist and you don't have to turn on your camera. You could just leave your mic on, and you know, all you would need to do necessarily is just speak your goal over the beat. So you know, not too scary. So that would be amazing if someone. So we'll give, you know, would anybody else be willing to step up? If not, you know, we'll give maybe like 15 seconds, and then we'll have it just be us and our staff artists, and that's okay. We can demonstrate.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and do this one, and then hopefully for the
we are going to do one more round, so you'll get one more opportunity. If maybe you see it and you're like, oh, okay, that's not that bad, I'll give it a shot.
So let's, I guess, share our.
So we're going to share our sound so we can play this beat. We were going to originally play the beat that Elliot made, but that was a little bit too complicated to access. So we're just going to go ahead and play this other beat called Nog Champa, which is a pretty good vibe.
We're going to use this one, actually.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. We're going to play, my bad. Pete Rock, A Little Soul, has a lot of. Can everyone hear that? Yeah, that's so great. Can everyone give us the thumbs up if you can hear it? Or, yeah, you can hear us over at 2 times, right? You can hear us talking.
It's pretty too loud.
The beat's a little loud.
Yeah, really good, like 60%.
For your voice, anyway.
Got it. Is that better?
Yeah, me.
Is that good, Pat, or does it still need to be lower?
I would go a tiny bit lower.
Tiny bit lower.
Got you.
That's probably good.
Okay. All right. I guess I can start.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead.
All right. Yo. My goal is to keep the crown. Oh, hold up. I messed up right off the top, but it's all right. I don't stop because my goal is to keep going, keep flowing, get the juice wide open. Yeah, my goal is to keep the crown shaking, drop this knowledge on the convoluted foundation. That's my goal every single day. That's my goal, is find a beat to play. My goal is to be in the juvenile hall. I do this for y'all. Yeah, it's like we're moving the ball all around in a circle. That's the cipher. Get the energy moving, regulating the brain stem while we're grooving. That's the goal. My goal is to travel the globe and give back to the whole as a community. Hip hop and unity. It is soon to be creating opportunities. That's my goal. Give back while I spit raps and expand this impact as far as it goes. That's my goal, is to spit it with a little soul. That's Pete Rock, and that's how it goes. That's my goal.
All right, Johnny.
All right. You guys hear me?
No.
All right. Guys, turn the beat up a little bit.
Yeah, it's all right.
Is that better?
Yeah. All right. Goes. Yo, my goals is to know my body and soul and not fall deep into the hole of strife. You know, I'm stay away from the life of strife, and you know, I'm getting light. I take to the light. My goal is to get into the music, and every day I use it to get over the hurdle of the abuse and the struggle that I know I'm not used to. Every day is my goal. I never stay. I stay on the path, and you know, I gotta laugh every day. And my life is a blessing, and there ain't no stressing sometimes every day, and you know it's a blessing. Yeah.
All right. My goal is to try to go old with grace. My goal is to really maintain my pace. My goal is to try to have enough space to breathe in. My goal is to continue and look what I'm leaving behind and build a legacy. My goal is to put my leg in front of me and keep on walking. My goal is to be clear in what I'm talking. My goal is to take walks in nature and see hawks and falcons. My goal is to be looking for something to find. My goal is to try to really find my mind and connect it with my heart and speak from that. My goal is to do all of this through this dope type of rap. My goal is to do this all through a freestyle. My goal is to not take up too much of my meanwhile so that some of my time always remains free. My goal is essentially just to meet, and that's easy to achieve. Yes, it's easy to breathe, easy to raise, easy to hold. Of rhythm. My goal is to make sure my spirit is no longer hidden.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, you know, as you can see, you can mess up, you can falter.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's all part of the experience in this context. That's kind of where, you know, the growth happens. It makes us smile as well.
Yeah,
but glad
appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's the hope, is that, you know, even vicariously you get some of that rhythmic regulation, and also just notice how you feel before and after the experience. And just, you know, observing it can even do that, you know. But imagine if you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm out of my comfort zone too. Even though I'm with you guys a lot, I'm mostly a beat maker, and I really trying to like do more vocal stuff, you know.
Yeah, no, we've loved seeing you step up, man. It's been awesome. Yeah, Johnny is a phenomenal beat maker, and he's done live beats like on the spot for a lot of our ciphers.
Creating you.
But yeah, definitely great to see you step up. And it's one of the cool things about freestyling is it's an incredibly deep craft and art that you can, you know, spend years and never master. But it's also very, very accessible.
100%.
Kind of talking over rhythm and trying to make words fit and rhyme where they are. And you never really know what's going to happen. Sometimes can come out a lot better, sometimes not as good. But really, it's just about the experience and the fun of it. So with that being said, we're going to quickly get into this last round.
Yeah.
This is the gratitude round. We did this last time. We always close all of our workshops with the gratitude round. Just to, you know, quickly touch on it, gratitude just more and more seems to be growing in the popular awareness. Is a phenomenally powerful resource. Tons of research around it. One study I came across in a kind of cursory synopsis of it was done with Vietnam vets, and they showed that vets that had a sustained regular gratitude practice had a statistically significant lower rate of PTSD diagnosis. So showing how powerful gratitude can be as a resilience building tool in the face of and under the impact of severe and extreme trauma.
And, you know, life has many challenges. Life is not peaches and cream and puppies and rainbows all the time, right? Like, so we want to make that really clear, because some of this stuff could come across as a little bit like placating, or, you know, like, oh, well, yeah, just be grateful, everything is good. Like, but it's not. Like, there's a lot of hard stuff. I mean, life right now in the world is really hard, and especially for the youth that we work with, you know, it's not always easy for them to even think about anything they're grateful for. So, you know, we're not by any means trying to, like, you know, provide empty platitudes or anything like that. But that being said, although platitude rhymes with gratitude, so, but that being said, you know, for the youth that we work with, it's also really important to be able to help them to cultivate gratitude and be able to see, you know, that no matter what's going on in life, there is always something you can find to be grateful for. And as you're able to identify the things that you're grateful for, that actually can build your resilience to the hard things that you're currently moving through in life. You know, so those things are not mutually exclusive. They're very connected, because, you know, once you're filled with gratitude, it helps you to be able to have the fortitude and energy to be able to move through those difficult times and know that there's a possibility of things getting better, because you're focusing on what is there, what you can actually have some thankfulness for. You know, this really does lessen that impact of that trauma as a result of that, and really helps you to build the, you know, enormous resilience. And then if you combine that with the freestyling, the rhythmic regulation, and the way that that's regulating your brain and central nervous system, it allows you to really take that gratitude in a deeper sense, where you're really kind of, it's sinking through and permeating your whole being in a different way, kind of the same way that the youth, when he was setting the goal to graduate, did. With the gratitude, it's the same thing. So it's a deeper integration of that, rather than just writing it or just thinking about it. The rhythm and freestyling about it is even more powerful. So
definitely. With that being said, can we hopefully get Wen? I'm not sure if you're done eating and you wanna jump in here. We would love to hear from some other folks as well, in addition to.
Again, this is just all this is in this exercise. We're just going to freestyle about what we're grateful for. Mm-hmm. And yeah, if you can rhyme, that's great, but you don't have to. You can literally, like, we're really inviting you, maybe one other person, two other people, to step up if you're willing to. Be brave and just experiment, push a little out of your comfort zone. You don't have to show your camera, just turn your mic on and just say a couple things you're grateful for over the rhythm, over the beat. And I promise you're going to feel really, really good.
Yeah, for real. As we like to say, the rhythmic regulation, in a way, bit of a metaphor, but opening up the system to allow the gratitude to sink in even deeper and really fully integrate with all of yourself. Yeah. So it's a feel-good exercise for sure. Well, let's see if we can get anyone else. Wen, thank you for being willing to try.
Okay, awesome. So Wen is done eating. She's gonna jump in.
I'm grateful for you, Wen.
Yep. Anyone else? If not, we can just roll with us.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we, one of us, I guess, so I'll start this one. Max started the last one.
Yeah.
And then maybe Johnny can go again. When you could go after Johnny, and then Max will close us out. Does that work for everybody?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Well, what's the order again? I missed
So it
sorry.
would be, I'll go first. Then we'll do Johnny, and Wen, then you. Nice to see you. Thanks for sharing the camera as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
Does that sound good? So you would be after Johnny.
Oh, I'm after Johnny?
Yeah, you can go before him too if that.
Would
feels
you
more
rather go
comfortable.
before him?
Wait. Just tell it to me again, just so I don't.
So I would start, and then Johnny, and then you, and then Max. But we can also.
Oh, okay. Whatever you prefer.
Okay. Yeah, it's somewhat arbitrary. So I would say if that works for you, let's do that.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and do this other beat.
Yeah, this one is called Nog Champa. Chill.
How is that?
Vibe.
Can you guys hear the beat and hear us over it?
Yeah, is the beat too loud? Do we need to turn it down, Pat? What do you think? Good?
It sounds pretty good to me. If you want to go down a little bit, you could, but
Tiny bit.
Okay.
People were
Just
saying they
sounds
couldn't
good.
hear me.
yeah, sometimes your mic,
It's good right now.
I think your mic auto tries to like set your levels, and sometimes
Right.
it doesn't boost them, and sometimes it doesn't. So
I
it's safe.
turned them.
You know what I think it is? I think, Max, when you're talking, lean into the.
Okay, I'll lean in more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Oh, thank you for that.
appreciate
All right.
feedback.
Well, I'm grateful for the night, and I'm grateful for the day. I'm grateful when Stu said she uses rhymes to pray. I'm grateful that I can get a little caught up and stumble. I'm grateful for the fact that when given the ball, I fumble because I learned to take a loss and get back up again. I'm grateful that I can fill my cup again and drink it. I'm grateful I can think it. I'm grateful I be sinking deeper through this. I'm grateful that I'm peeping the truth in here. I'm grateful that I can use it to conduce it. Yes, I'm grateful for juicing my glass. I'm grateful for the past. I'm grateful for the future, but mostly I'm grateful for right now. I'm grateful it's tight how we can all get up in this cipher and get these rhymes. I'm grateful for these times that we are in. I'm grateful for the world as it spins. I'm grateful I can end at the same time that I begin.
All right. Johnny.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay. Sorry, it helps me to pace a little bit when I freestyle.
All good, man. All good.
Okay. Beat. Yo, I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful for the strife. I'm grateful for the everyday in the knife. I'm grateful for the being on point every day. And I'm grateful for my kid every time she is teaching new things. She's learning new things, going to school, and she's showing her courage. I'm grateful for my life and my wife. I'm grateful for my family every day, every night, because I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my wealth, but I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the sun and the nature all around, and it's fun, and it's not about the fun, but it's all about the wisdom, and I'm coming through, and it's, sorry. That's all I got.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice job. All right, Wen.
I'm grateful for peaches and cream because it's just great with ice cream. Ice cream is my favorite food. I like to eat it every day, even while I pray. Just before that and after that, I don't even stop. And I'm grateful for all the music and all the different sounds. I'm grateful for how we learned to make beats today. And even though I don't really know what to say, I just keep trying to plug away and just keep going on and on and on until I think of the next thing to say. And I'm grateful for all these workshops from the Trauma Healing Foundation. It's been just really, it's just been really amazing, all these different things I've been learning. And I'm just grateful for God for my life and my health, and to give me the internet and Zoom, and to bring me to this group. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was amazing. Thank
That
you,
was
Wen.
amazing.
All right. Thank you.
You either deliberately, intentionally, or inadvertently rhymed.
Yeah.
The foundation was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. All right, I'll close this out. Yeah, okay. I'll close this out. I'm grateful I'm feeling open now. Yeah, I'm grateful to let my soul arouse. Yeah, rises. I'm grateful for the horizon and the way that my eyes spin in different directions. I'm grateful that this isn't perfection. I'm grateful that this is the essence and the rhythm is a blessing and there really is no question if I'm manifesting when I speak. I'm grateful for my chest when I release. Yeah, and the breath and that I breathe. Yeah, and accepting me, acceptance, self-acceptance, self-possession is maybe an illusion, but I'm grateful for every brain intrusion. I'm grateful that I can make communion with the union of the divine when I rhyme. I'm grateful for my own mind. I'm grateful that sometimes I feel blind so that I can see my blind spots and get behind and move front and so I can see what's next. Yeah, I'm grateful for every single step I take and every single breath. Yeah, and I'm grateful that I can create with a lot of depth.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Wen. Thank you. That was really wonderful to hear you share. Yeah, just taking a moment to check in with ourselves, how we feel. Participants, even those that were just listening, watching. I definitely feel, a little more lively.
Yeah,
feels
definitely.
Like molecules are moving around more, thoughts are clicking a little more lucidly. Again, gratitude to the participants, gratitude to everybody in the audience, gratitude to the TRF for hosting us.
100%. Thank you so much for everybody for being here and being with us on these workshops, participating if you did, and if you didn't, vicariously experiencing it. Hopefully you found value in it and see why this kind of work is so important. And thank you so much, for riding with us on this whole series of workshops. We're really excited about the future of this hip hop therapy space. And thanks again so much to everybody.
And Pat, I know you probably got to wrap this up pretty quickly. If you have a moment, I just wanted to open it up if anybody had any questions at all.
That's a good, yeah. If there is we have maybe
at least 5 minutes. We could
cool. Okay, awesome. Yeah. So if there are any questions, this is the time. Little Q&A. If you guys have any questions, we would be happy to answer them. If you want to learn more about the work we do in our organization, definitely check out our website, rhythmicmind.net. You can also subscribe to our newsletter on there, keep you abreast of our developments as an organization, as well as really cool and interesting intersections between mental health, wellness, well-being, and hip hop, how those things kind of coalesce. A lot of value in that as well. So definitely don't sleep and subscribe to our newsletter. It also helps us a lot to spread the impact of this work. Definitely. Also follow us on Instagram at Rhythmic Mind 1. That's numerical 1. It's also really cool content we put out there, highlighting these intersections. And again, really helps us to really move forward and expand this work.